First things first, I want to do a quick little walkthrough of the quest as it appears in-game, just so we're all on the same page. Blind Betrayal is a Brotherhood of Steel main quest, which begins once you've completed Liberty Prime and got everything the big guy needs to get working again. You are then told to speak with Elder Maxon, who informs you that
Proctor Quinlan completed the decryption of the data you retrieved from the Institute. A portion of his findings included a list of synths that went missing or escaped from their underground facility. After careful analysis of the information, we've discovered something unprecedented. Paladin Danse is a perfect match for one of the synths on that list.
You are then given orders to track down and kill Danse, but first you must find out where he's run off to. Proctor Quinlan won't have the answers you need, but while talking to him, Scribe Halem will appear, and eventually tell you that she has relevant information to share with you. Follow her and she will inform you of Dance's location, although not until after she pleads with you to give Danse a chance once you find him. Make it to the bunker where your old CO is hiding out, and you'll then come to the part of the quest where a choice must be made. You can follow your orders and ensure the ex-Paladin dies, or you can convince him that he's still the person he has always been, and that he should live. If you do the former, then things are quite simple. Return to the Pridwin, turn in the quest, and proceed as standard. But if you spare Danse, then when you return to the surface, Elder Maxon will be waiting for you. At this point you'll be granted another chance to kill the Paladin, but if you still don't want to, then you'll have to deal with a charisma check. Fail it, and Maxon will carry out the execution instead, but if you manage to pass it, the Elder shows mercy and allows Danse to live, though the story he will be telling the Brotherhood is a different one.
As far as I'm concerned, you're dead. You were pursued and slain by this Brotherhood Knight, and your remains were incinerated. From this day forward, you are forbidden to set foot on the Pridwin, or speak to anyone from the Brotherhood of Steel. Should you choose to ignore me, know you'll be fired upon immediately.
Once this path has been walked down, Danse will remain behind, though still be available as a follower, and the player character returns to the Pridwin, where things then soon carry on as if Danse was killed at the bunker. The decision of this quest is a brilliant one, a great example of the power of choice within role-playing games. The game forcing you to choose whether or not to allow the death of the follower, a death he at first asks for, is an emotionally heavy moment that will have a real effect on gameplay, as killing him obviously means you're down one potential companion. Overall, this final part of the quest is great, and I even love how they work things out so the rest of the questline can proceed unhindered. But every single time I play through this mission, there's a whole bunch of opportunities I see where things could have been done differently. Instances where this quest could go from just being one of Fallout 4's best to one of the best from any RPG. And so, it's time for me to start with my rewrite of Blind Betrayal. First up, there's some initial speech checks with Elder Maxon that I didn't mention in my recap, as they literally do not matter. He briefly interrogates you about Paladin Danse, thinking that maybe you knew all along he was a synth. Regardless of how convincing you are or aren't, the outcome is always the same, with the Elder believing you no matter what. This is an obvious first point of change, and one where I think a few different outcomes should be possible. Now I do think that the standard progression of the game should remain, but only if you actually pass the speech checks. Convince Maxon that you didn't know anything about the situation, and he's happy for you to deal with it. What I would change first is the nature of the speech checks. At standard they're just a few average level checks no matter what, but I believe the difficulty of these speech checks should be dependent on two factors: how close you are to Danse, and how much you've done for the Brotherhood. The higher your affinity build up with the Paladin, the harder the checks will be. The more quests you've completed in the Brotherhood's favour, the easier the checks will be. These two factors combined make it so that your actions throughout the game will suddenly come into play. If you have only done the main Brotherhood questline to get to this point, but have stuck with Danse as your follower while doing other stuff around the Commonwealth, then you'll be dealing with some red speech checks that have a very low chance of success. On the other hand, if you never really took much of a shine to Danse, but like doing lots and lots of Brotherhood missions, then you'll get some incredibly easy checks, as the Elder already has reason to trust you. I also think that it should eventually reach a point where it's just an instant pass, though this would require basically never dealing with Danse outside of required interactions, and doing a boatload of Radiant missions for the Brotherhood. With that change alone, we have already made it so that the quest interacts more with the rest of the game, but we still need to go over what happens when you fail the speech check. Because I've never liked the idea that you basically fail to convince the Elder that you are still loyal, and yet he still wants you to meet up with a potential traitor. Instead, if you fail to prove your innocence, you're thrown in the brick. This would then open up a whole different set of options for what to do with the quest. Treat it a bit like prison in Skyrim. You can just rest up and wait to serve your time, or you can break out and try to sort things out yourself. If you accept your fate and do nothing, then the Brotherhood will carry out this mission on their own, eliminating the ex-soldier and then freeing you once it's been made clear you had nothing to do with the situation. But if you don't want to wait around in the Bridwin's prison, then you'll need to break out. Find a way to get out of there without hurting anyone, or without being noticed at all, and you can carry on with this quest as standard, just without the Brotherhood's help. This means you'll have to track down Danse on your own, and figure out how to deal with him. The end of the quest will play out the same as it already does, as I think the ending is definitely the strongest point, so I don't want to make too many changes there. So let's instead roll it back a minute and return to the prison break. Let's say that this time around you still choose to escape, but go out guns blazing, shooting your way out and hijacking a vertibird in a super obvious way. At this point you are now a flat out enemy of the Brotherhood of Steel. They're not going to accept someone back into their ranks who just shot a bunch of their troops. You can still go and find Danse and convince him to either live or die, but in either case, both of you will now be marked as enemies of the faction. Those are the potential outcomes if you fail the speech check and get thrown in the brig. But what about if you're able to convince the Elder? Well, as standard, your next task would be to speak with Proctor Quinlan and try to find out where the Paladin fled to. Normally this conversation is interrupted by Scribe Halen and you just end up getting told the location you need to go to. What I change here is just letting the conversation with Quinlan play out alone, one in which he gives you a large list of potential locations around the Commonwealth that someone might hide out at. He will also direct you to both Scribe Halen and Knight Reese, as the two of them knew the Paladin best and may be able to help narrow down the list for you. Speak with Halen and she will try to convince you to spare Dance's life, much like she already does in the game.
He's earned my admiration, my respect, and my friendship. I don't care what Quinlan's report says. I don't care if he's a machine or not. He's still Danse.
How much help she will provide to you depends on how much you convince her that you want to help her friend, and still believe that he is a good person. If you've already made up your mind that he is a traitor and tell her as much, then she'll be of little help, only crossing a single location off the list and claiming that's all the assistance she can provide. Take some speech checks to claim that you're on her side, but fail them, and she will be torn about what you will do. She'll knock the list down to just a few locations, but leave it at that. And if you pass those checks that claim you want to help out, then she's happy to tell you the precise location, knowing that you might be the only person who can now save the Paladin's life. Reese, on the other hand, will essentially be the inverse option. He can also narrow down the list for you, but you'll need to convince him that you're loyal to the Brotherhood alone, and plan on killing the traitor when you find him. The outcomes here are all the same, just with you having to take the opposite viewpoint. Convince either of his team you're on their side, and they can reveal where he likely went. Be abrasive and disagree with both of them for some reason, and the long list of locations gets a little shorter, but you've still got a fair few places to sweep. Try and convince each of them that you're on their side, but fail at the speech checks, then the list will get narrowed down to 2 or 3 locations, making your search much easier. I'd also want there to be some hints and clues that can be found by searching through Brotherhood records on the locations on the list. Each would have been surveyed by teams, and you can narrow things down by seeing which entries Danse was involved with and how favourable they were viewed as fallback points. This way you actually have a bit of a puzzle to solve, at least on your first time playing through. But I'd also want a secret ending to become available at this part of the quest. The reason everyone believes Paladin Danse is a synth is because of a list that Proctor Quinlan decoded. If you could convince everyone that Quinlan was the traitor instead, then it would seem as if Danse was innocent all along. In order for this option to even be unlocked, you would first need to have invested in the hacker perk, allowing you to forge some evidence that makes it seem like the original list has been tampered with by the Proctor. Doing this will give you the option to frame an innocent man in order to save your friend. Present this false evidence to the Elder and convince him that it's the truth, and your risky gambit will pay off, allowing Danse to return to the Brotherhood at the rank of Paladin, and keeping you in their good books too. And all it will cost you is the execution of someone who did nothing wrong. I did say this option was a risky gambit though, so if Quinlan catches you forging the evidence, or you fail to convince Maxon to believe in the evidence you forged, you will likely be seen as the hostile force, making you an enemy of the Brotherhood and leading to them killing you. Not a risk you want to take if you can help it, but it would be the only option that keeps Danse with the Brotherhood, providing you also don't let it slip to him that he actually is a synth. The reason I love this secret ending to the quest so much is that it is arguably the best outcome for the player character, as they keep their follower, their place in the Brotherhood, and can do a faction playthrough with the faction-aligned follower. The only disadvantage on a gameplay side is that they can't turn in technical documents anymore, as the person who accepted them is now dead, but I'm sure someone else could eventually take up that role. The thing is, for being the best outcome in terms of gameplay, it's also by far the most evil option, as you're killing someone who did nothing wrong, and then lying to your friend and your faction in order to get things your own way. Throwing another moral wrench in the works of a quest which already is about morals and what it means to be a person is just a perfect fit for a Fallout game. With this rewrite in place, we go from a binary decision quest to one where you're constantly making choices. Can you convince the Elder, or will you get thrown in prison? When you're in prison, do you escape to do the job yourself, or trust in the Brotherhood to make the right call? If you do escape, then can you do so quietly, or will you anger your captors and turn them even further against you? Will you seek the help of Reese or Halen or both? Would you be willing to frame someone in order to let your friend hold on to the life he loves so much? And of course, will Danse live or die? We've gone from just one decision to make at the very end, to choices throughout, and a host of different outcomes which can alter who is alive at the end of this mission, and where your standing with the Brotherhood is. In my opinion, this is how you turn a good quest into a great one. But what do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Leave a like if you enjoyed some of the ideas I came up with in this video, and make sure to subscribe if you want to see more rewrites like this, as they're something I really enjoy working on. If you'd like to support me further, then you can become a channel member, or go over to my Patreon page and pledge there. And, as always, thanks for watching. Sarge out.